Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to everybody here. So this is KBR Live, a discussion by the Kelab Bunga Raya United Kingdom, which is a student-based political think tank. We would like to think of ourselves as representatives of the voice of students in the United Kingdom, and we serve as a medium of that voice to the Pakatan Harapan government. So our topic today is about ICERD, right? A hot topic in Malaysia right now. Recently, the Prime Minister has announced that we are not going to ratify the agreement. So the full name of the topic is ICERD, Dari, Sudut, Pandang, Mahasiswa. Before we begin, let me just introduce myself and introduce our panel members. My name is Syed, Emir. I'm the Secretary General of Kelab Bunga Raya United Kingdom, and I'm in my final year studying politics at King's College London.
So, Assalamualaikum, hi. My name is Aiman Zulkifli. I'm a final year LLB student at University of Leeds.
Hi everyone, my name is Syarifah Nur Anisah. You can call me Unis. I'm a final year LLB law student studying at Queen Mary, University of London, and today I'll be representing Malaysian Progressive United Kingdom, MPUK.
Hi, my name is Nelynn, and I'm a third year law student at Cardiff University, and today I'll be representing KPUM, which is Kesatuan Penuntut Undang-Undang. In English, it's called the UK and Ireland Malaysian Law Students Union.
Okay, so ICRD, just an international agreement, but in Malaysia, it seems to be an image for something a bigger, a macro sort of. It looks like it represents a division in the country that is so apparent just on one issue. But let's just get to the basics of it. Aiman, what is ICERD? Can you explain for just the people who might not understand what it is?
Okay, ICERD is one of the 9 core human rights instruments. It is the third generation. So introduced 1963 and fully effective 1969. So, one of the human rights instruments in which the objective is to eradicate racial discrimination. So that is the simplest introduction on ICERD. When we talk about the human rights instruments, it means that it operates like any international treaty. So that's on ICERD. And I'd just like to point out that we should also read from the historical perspective why ICERD became a treaty in 1963. It's following up on the apartheid issues, and also it's like a follow-up of the 1960 Convention on the 1960 against colonialism. So it's like a follow-up. So we should read from that perspective as well.
Okay. Unis, does your organization have any views on the Prime Minister deciding not to ratify the agreement?
Yes.
Or
definitely.
or might be your personal view as well.
Well, it's a mix of both. I do understand why they did not ratify it. I believe Tun Dr. Mahathir is not stupid. He is being very pragmatic,
right.
And in this political climate right now, there's a lot of backlash, there's a lot of backfire coming from a lot of people. So because Pakatan Harapan is so baru, Malaysia baru is so new, to actually move forward with something that Malaysians don't really know about. ICERD is something that Malaysians before this, they really do not know
right.
about. So because of this maybe slight ignorance, they are fearful. Like Barack Obama always says, if people are scared of something they don't know. So Malaysians are in the dark in that sense. For Malaysian progressive point of view, theoretically we do support ICERD like completely, but we also do understand Tun Mahathir's point of view. But in the long run, in the future, or at least in 5 to 10 years time, it has to be ratified, it has to be signed.
Okay.
So, but as of right now, we do understand it.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. And Lynn, what does your organization think of it? And do you have the same view as MPUK that those opposing ICERD come from a position of ignorance?
Okay, so yes, we do have a similar view, and our official stance is stated in our official statement against which is on the government, why the government should ratify the ICERD. And we believe that the government should ratify ICERD despite the ignorance of the people. And I think what the government is lacking to do right now is to play an active role in reaching out to the people, defeating those false news with facts. Because if you look at how the government is responding to all these anti-ICERD rallies, their response is usually, I don't want to get into this mess. I shall refrain from from commenting on that. They are shying away from this matter because they deem it as sensitive. They think that it may be dangerous to comment on it due to their political position. But I think because there's so much ignorance on this, they think because the ICERD essentially is about racial discrimination, right? So people connect it to issues on religion, which is totally not under the context of ICERD. And such ignorance could easily be rebutted by a formal statement or justification from the government on this issue, and not them shying away from it. And them shying away from it shows, I don't know, some form of cowardice. I mean, I do understand that maybe it's not okay to sign it like immediately, but I think they should not say no to it completely. They should at least have an active conversation with the people, uphold their commitment to ratify it as what they have said during the UN General Assembly.
Okay.
I have to add on the religion part. I disagree because if we read the review by the committees, which is CRD also can accept cases. If let's say if a state party accept Article 14, accept Article and Article 11, let's say, they can review cases on religion as long as it is a double discrimination ground, in which race and religion, race and sex. So it's to make a claim that it is purely on religion its own, it is not under CERD power. But when it comes to double ground, let's say race and religion, race and other things, then CERD can review that.
Yeah, I understand. I read that comment on one of the general recommendation papers, but then the primary condition for them to respond on such matter is for it to satisfy the violation as stated in Article 1, which defines racial discrimination as discrimination against the race, ethnic and descent. So religion is only an adding on as like a subcategory if it's included in the matter. But the primary condition that they look at is still the conditions that are listed in Article 1.
Also, just to add on that, is that I think the anti-ICERD rally is actually using religion more of a tool this is to actually bring some spite amongst people. Like, going back to the point of ignorance, is that because Malaysia is so sensitive about religion, it's like, okay, you cannot touch Allah, you cannot touch Islam as a main religion kind of thing. So with this part of like ignorance in that sense, when they conflate religion and race into this matter, they shy away from looking at ICERD as facts and as a convention and as something very general. They are very fearful, wouldn't you say? And it's very silly.
Well, okay. The first thing I'd just like to say is that if you had a Venn diagram of race and religion in Malaysia, like the Malays, my race would be completely 100%, right? Like, our race is, in a way, it's defined by our religion. So I don't think it's necessarily true that when you say, oh, race and religion is not, like, they're conflating the issues, right? But in Malaysia, it is conflated, and that's the thing. Okay, and another thing that you guys were talking about, ignorance, I'm not so sure. So you're saying, like, what? If you had a referendum and maybe more than 50%, so they're all just ignorant, they're all coming from a place of ignorance, that they don't want the ICERD. Maybe it's something else. Maybe the ICERD, although it is an agreement, and you're right, when I read the agreement, in general I do agree with it, but it could be just like a lot of the arguments that they have is that it's a Trojan horse. It's something that brings on something else. It brings on the other human rights, and as defined by the West as to what it is. And Malaysia is our country. And we want, and I think where they're coming from is that we get to define our rights.
By we, do you mean Malays?
Yeah, no, we mean Malaysians. Malaysians get to define. So, for instance, even the Malays or Chinese or Indians in Malaysia would generally say that, for instance, same-sex marriage is a non-issue.
Okay.
We don't think this is a human right. But people in the West would disagree, and that's what happened in America, right? So, I think the point that PAS is making is that when they define rights, they want rights defined by God, defined by religion. And it's not necessarily the case, Islam and whatnot, but other religions too. But they don't want rights defined by culture, defined by humans only. And I think that's where they're coming from. I think it's like a bigger picture rather than just the ICERD. But if we're talking about just the ICERD as a whole, it is a good agreement, right? I mean, there's not much, but maybe it's just the fact that our country might not be ready for it yet. And you guys have to admit as well that Article 153 sort of, I mean, it looks like there's a contradiction on the face of it, and that's what these people would think. What do you guys think about that?
Okay, so we can talk about Article 153 here.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Do you guys want to start, or can I just start?
Go ahead.
So, Article 153. Malays like to really use it, like Malaysians. They love this because they're like, okay, don't touch our Hak Melayu. Hak Melayu is something which is innate. This is our born right. My blood says I'm Malay. I deserve to be in Mara, whatever. So this is what they have. But they forget and they don't know. And also it's coming from some part of ignorance as well. Is also because of they don't know it's an affirmative action. And what I think Malaysians, or at least the parliament, should clarify is that Hak Melayu is not an innate right. It's an affirmative action given to the people who could not be on par with the other races at that time. And even then, in Article 153, it says it has to be used reasonably. And if it's not used reasonably, if you give rich Malays things or rights or privileges that they may not deserve because they are already wealthy enough, that's not fair, and that could be against the affirmative action. See beyond the article and see the meaning of the article itself and see how it was raised in the first place, and then you can answer ICERD. And then the people, and then you can educate the Malays who do not know about it. I'm talking about Malays, not just Malays, Bumi Putras who may be against it. I'm talking, you have to sort of like not go down to the level, talk to them and listen to them, but also clarify certain things.
But I think they would say that it's not just about affirmative action, but just a right as a native of the land in place.
Well, some parts of it, but the sense of entitlement, the ICERD rallies and all the talks you've been hearing, you hear that. You hear Hak Melayu and stuff.
Right.
And it's not just about, it's not just about, oh yeah, I'm part of the native. No, they're not shy about it. And they're being very discriminatory against the other races, marginalizing everyone.
Do you have something to say?
Okay, so I love what you said about re-educating people about what Article 153 really means and what impact does it have on the people. And I completely agree with the fact that affirmative action is allowed under Article 153, and it gave people a sense of entitlement instead of reminding them they have a special position to obtain an aid from government. And at that time, Article 153 was solely purported to close the socio-economic gap between the different races due to the effect that was left by the colonial times. So if you look in the express wording of Article 153, it does not contradict the whole principle of ICERD, because ICERD is all about non-racial discrimination,
right.
But at the same time they promote substantive equality. So they actually allow affirmative action only if it's to help close a certain socio-economic gap
Right.
between the various races.
The thing I'd say is that
Sorry, can I add
go
something
on,
on that?
please.
On 153, Perkara 153, my view, I'm not very well versed in politics or social of Malaysia, but speaking from legal perspective, I think the first thing we have to consider is that special kedudukan istimewa orang Melayu dan juga anak-anak Sabah negeri can be equated to discrimination as recognized by Article 1 ICERD. If ICERD, let's say if the special position is not even a discrimination form, then we don't have to consider about the affirmative action as per ICERD. If, according to ICERD Article 1, if that position is an indeed discrimination, then we have to go further. We have to consider whether the position, the special position of the Malays and also anak negeri Sabah Sarawak can be justified as affirmative action, special measures by Article 1.4. So from legal perspective, I would say that. So on Article 1.4, one of the contention is that on the time frame issues. Because if we read Article 1.4 ICERD, okay, at the last part, provided however that such measures do not as a consequence lead to the maintenance of separate rights for different racial groups, and that they shall not be continued after the objective for which they were taken have been achieved. So objective and time frame is needed for any affirmative action. So the problem with our constitution is that there is an absence of explicit reference of a time frame on 153 and also other articles such as Tanah Rizal.
Right.
So to question from the legal perspective, the legal language, is that absence of explicit time frame is in line with Article 1.4, I said.
So you're saying that Article 153 is definite?
No. Article 153 only provides a legal tool for the government to
do
make
affirmative action,
policies.
Mm.
Make policies that discriminate other people.
Mm.
It only empowers the government to do so.
Mm.
There's no time frame, which is why when it comes to policy itself, Dasar Ekonomi Baru was only for what? 20 years. And then another 20 years for Dasar Pembangunan Negara. There is a time frame for policy. But Article 153 only provides the legal tool for the government to initiate or make policy. So that must be understood, which is why my friend raised, which I also tag you in the Facebook status, the UK government entered a reservation for native Fijians. And after a few years, then Fiji government itself put up the reservation with regards to special policy for native Fijians. So that is one, we can say legal precedent under ICERD that we can quote. So that is the case.
To respond on that, I think the proposal by the proponents of ICERD is not comprehensive just yet, because let's say at least in the parliament, I read all the Hansard on ICERD. It's a very small amount discussion on that. For I think the proponents, because the magnitude of the reaction is very huge, I think the proponents should work a bit faster if they insist to continue on ICERD and make a very comprehensive proposal on which to justify and to clear the stance. Because a few cabinet ministers mentioned about reservations, but it's not clear on which article.
But why should only the proponents do it?
Because the people who don't want it,
But
don't
then
want it at all.
I mean, in the government itself, they're very unclear. But they're like, okay, yeah, we're just like, yeah, we don't want to ratify it now, and just because one leader says so, it's like there's not one person giving any comprehensive statement that says like explaining why.
But
They give something like something to throw us off, like okay, we're just not doing it, and that's not part of democracy.
I would just say that I think that all of us, that there seems to be a disagreement, first of all, on whether or not our constitution is or is not wholesale compatible with the agreement without reservations. There seems to just be a legal. We're not too sure about that. But I think what you would find that we're all in agreement, no matter from PAS or DAP or whatever, that we're against racial discrimination. No one likes racism. You ask anybody from Terengganu, are you a racist? No, they're not going to say they're racist.
Even Trump said he wasn't a racist though.
But if you ask them, if you support Article 153, it doesn't necessarily, automatically mean that. But basically, if you say, do you support racial discrimination or not, right? People will just say, no, I do not support racial discrimination. So the thing is, I think where it's coming from is like who defines what racial discrimination is, and that's the thing. And that's where I think people from the people who don't want ICERD come from when they bring up the sovereignty argument. Do we, the Malaysian people, get to decide what racial discrimination is, or do international arbiters from the UN get to decide what racial discrimination is?
There's this thing called doctrine of interpretation, where you can use when you can interpret international laws. Are you familiar with it?
Yes, so the state parties to ICERD can make a declaration as to how they interpret ICERD itself. And there are a lot of countries that do that. Thailand, USA.
Yeah.
There's so many countries that interpret things in their own way. So for example, USA interprets hate speech as a form of freedom of expression, so they do not discriminate against that.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, to respond to the things that you have said and my fellow panelists have said, so two things. On the compatibility, I would say that we are not in this I personally am very firm on the fact that if you look at the express wording of Article 153, disregarding the validity of affirmative action now, okay? So if you look at express wording of Article 153, its objective was to close the social economic gap, right? And that is in line with substantive equality that the ICERD is achieving. So I do not understand why is there legal disagreement on that. And even if there is the phrase special kedudukan, the special kedudukan itself is the allowance for that affirmative action to be done by the government. So it is not a right, it's a privilege. So in a sense, at that time, it was needed. So it was substantive equality. So it's wholly compatible. Secondly, on Western values, according as per what I've said just now, one, KPUM thinks that human rights values are universal. It's not just a Western value, but yes, we can definitely derive it from our federal constitution. And you have to take note that ICERD is in line with Article 8, which says about equality before the law and the non-discrimination of race, gender, and descent. Okay, and in terms of interpretation of certain segments of the definition, we can make a declaration on it. And I don't think that's definitely a good way to go about ratifying ICERD and not just saying no to the whole thing.
I would just say that I think when you said that it's too close the gap, but you know that it was the social contract of our forefathers was that we give you this, in effect you give us this, right? So the agreement was that we get they made the agreement was that the Malays got political power, and not political power, but they gave the other races legal rights as citizens, and the Malays got things like tanah rizab and all these special rights. So I mean it is in a sense, I mean what do you call it just now? You called it entitlements, right? But it was an exchange. It was an exchange of things. So it's not that you guys didn't get that. Not you guys, and we're all Malaysians, right? That the non-Malays didn't get anything. And I think the other one is that when you say Western values are universal, I don't think human rights are universal. I think you have vast disagreements even within the West as to what human rights mean. For instance, in Malaysia, you have the International Bar Council. Everybody in the bar says that actually we should completely abolish the death penalty. I don't think that if you ask the common Malaysian or even the common Westerner that is that a human right to not, that the state doesn't have a right to kill somebody else for killing another person? Is that a human right? I think no, they wouldn't agree. So I think I think there is a disagreement.
When I say it's universal, it's universally applicable, but you can definitely make declaration as to how do you interpret it.
Right.
Could I just bring you back? If Malaysia chooses to ratify ICERD, Malaysia has to put it in our domestic laws, right? So in our domestic laws, we have the choice to actually follow by it, but give our own touch to it. We can reshape liberal values and shape it into our communities. You get me?
Yes.
So ratifying in a few years' time is obviously something we need to really work forward to, and obviously make it Malaysianize it. Go ahead and Malaysianize it. The parliament now is super smart, right? So yeah, we can actually work towards it and not just say no to it. And yeah, and because convention, they can't compel you to do much.
Right.
It's more of an international pressure, sort of like for you to go forward. But in a sense that they shouldn't be too fearful about it.
But in the same way, the government cannot compel the people to think one way or the other. And if the people truly do believe that ICERD is just something they really don't need. And if you think about it, even Lim Kit Siang said it, and he said it with another version. He said that, actually Malaysians don't want ICERD if it's going to lead to 13 May. So I think another argument that could come from this is like, if you do a cost-benefit analysis, right? Is ICERD a good thing or a bad thing after we ratify it? Like, is this going to lead to more racial conflict, or will it actually lead to racial harmony, as the advocates say? it looks to me anyway that it would be the former. I don't know, you know.
Shouldn't there be a
Allah
common
Allah.
ground then? Like a compromise, a common ground between, you know, instead of like arguing on one side but the other side not listening, or for them to argue amongst themselves and us not listening.
But that's what I feel. That's what both sides are doing, though.
Like, yeah, they're just.
Advocates and people who don't want it, I think,
But are they
because they're both
talking
not
to
willing
each
to
other?
listen. They're not. That's the thing. That's why this is good.
I think at this stage we also have to consider that, let's say in the worst case scenario for ICERD advocates, Malaysia continues to not ratify ICERD within a near time, within the near future. I mean, not to ratify ICERD doesn't mean Malaysia legalize racial discrimination. It's like a benefit and cost on the international level. I mean, to equate the rejectors as racist is also unfair, because not all rejectors are arguing on the issues on unsound perspective. There are also some who are focused on other legal concerns, for example. And I can appreciate the concept of persistent objector in international law. Once you object, then you can be recognized as persistent objector towards a doctrine, towards a norm. But to just equate automatically, when Malaysia not ratifying ICERD as Malaysia who are not who don't support racial equality or even legalize racial discrimination is unfair. I just want to point out that. So I think at this moment, Parliament is sovereign enough, so we can adopt best practice to ensure our legal mechanism to eradicate all the possible means of discrimination.
Okay, this is my personal view, okay? So there's two dimensions to the whole issue of ratification of ICERD. There's one dimension of the ratification on it, which is the acceptance of the principles behind ICERD. And second thing would be the implementation of it, okay? So the implementation of it, just how we have talked about, you know, having declarations to interpret the values as our own, and come up with reservations, things like that. So on the fact that we do not ratify, on your point that if you do not ratify, you do not agree that we would be seen as racist, and you said that's wrong, right? Okay, my personal view is that there is political significance to ratifying ICERD because it shows that the government is committed to eliminate racial discrimination. So okay, so validity of affirmative action aside, if you look at the reality of affirmative action right now, okay, this is not related to the Article 103, but it's related to all the actual policies and laws in place that creates quota that are race-based and discriminatory to other ethnics, alright? So all these affirmative action policies, they are race-based. So these are highly racially discriminatory. If you do not at least make a step to commit to your own promise to ratify it and then review all these policies, then it really defeats the whole promise of, you know, upholding non-racial discrimination in their Pakatan Harapan's promise. And it goes against Article 8 of the Federal Constitution, by the way.
But we have to consider how the people's reaction. Do they really ready to accept that? I said moving forward, I would prefer to have like referendum per se, to review all the voices, because right now we have like even among the people, the dominance we see like from the Malays, but there are also some from the other races who are in opposition to ICERD because they see that the reaction is so negative, and at this moment,
There's no point.
A convention that should end up with racial harmony became a very bad thing right now, at least at Malaysian level.
Yeah.
But at least couldn't there be anything, like, isn't there anything they can do to eradicate the fear instead?
That's why the proponents, my stance is that the proponents should do more on lobbying the people. It's not on the rejectors, because if you want to invite people to agree with you, you have to commit more, to explain fully about which articles you are going to reserve, whether you are going to accept the individual complaint procedure, because some of the rejectors' arguments are also on the external monitoring and external scrutinization. For example, Article 11. Article 11 is interstate communication procedure, and Article 12 on the ad hoc commission, and Article 22 especially the very heated one, Article 22 on the ICJ and also other arbitration means. So if you're very clear on that, you are going to reserve on that. It means that the external monitoring is only by the committee. Then I think the fear, the level of fear can be minimized in that sense.
Okay. Okay, can I respond to that? Okay, I love the point about public consultation because I think this goes back to my point on how the government has been reacting to all these public rallies, anti-ICERD sentiments all around, and I personally believe that government should actually take an active role in letting the people know what truly is ICERD about and their stance on it. Are they going to make declarations on certain interpretation on definition of racism, or are they going to make some reservations on certain articles? Because a lot of other countries have made reservations on Article 11, 12 and 22.
But to be clear, the government is not completely united on being for ICERD, right? That has to be pointed out, right? KBR. Well, Bersatu and Amanah have, members of Bersatu and members of Amanah have come out with statements that they do not want to ratify ICERD, and the Prime Minister, who is from Bersatu, said very clearly that they don't want.
If it only goes against the Constitution of Article 153,
which we
goes
agree,
back to the point of compatibility.
But which we agree that we can't quite know if it's compatible or not.
My stance is like compatible, by the way.
Okay, but what if the media actually hears the proponent side?
Right.
Every time, because we can't access like TV3 and stuff right now, the media, the internet and everything, they're only focusing on what the anti-ICERDs are doing. And obviously, I mean, like, it just shows that the media is still part of the government.
Okay.
Like,
no,
a cohort.
I don't think that's necessary. Okay, no, please, go ahead.
Yeah. So if the media could actually hear, and that will be more fair for the people, because the referendum and blah blah, you're literally hearing the loudest voices, which is like PAS and maybe some orang aslis as well. But obviously the loudest ones are the ones that they go crazy, the red shirts and stuff like that. So if someone, well, no one can compel, but only the media itself can actually show the other side with no opposition from the government itself, to hear both sides and have a public forum or a public discussion, an open one, a TV one, only then people will know more about ICERD and people can hear. I
don't necessarily think that the media is completely showing. I think they're showing both sides. But I think the problem is that the media is not educating the people. That I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah,
but the thing is, what they're doing really, like all media around the world, is that they're just sensationalizing the issue so that the people who already read their newspapers can get more passionate about it, right? So people who read Harakah, for instance, they will be against ICERD, and people who write Harakah will be against ICERD. But people who read Star, people who read Newspaper Times, if you read it, you will have articles that basically the Star is for ICERD. I think I can say that quite clearly. When you see the Rage video of it, they're for ICERD. So you see that it looks to me that the case is that it's like where it's we have a free. I would say I don't think that's necessarily true that the government's controlling media. By the way, I think we have a free media, but it's just it looks something like the US, right? When the Fox is on the right, and then you have MSNBC on the left. So now, it looks like the media is taking positions. I'm not so sure.
I feel like printing press, they're a bit more fair. The print press, like Star, Grizzly, Veritarian.
They're all fair, but they're all just too passionate, too much demagoguery and too little facts, right?
Okay, let's go back to the whole point here. We should agree that the government should be the one that takes an active role in educating the people on their stance and making them, reassuring them of their fears. And one of the points that have been pointed out was that they fear that ICERD in itself is a Trojan horse, and they fear that the big powers in the West are the ones who are putting on the pressure on the UN to act on certain of their own interests, right? So I think one point to emphasize is that ICERD, the enforcement of ICERD in itself is done by CERD, the Committee on Elimination of Racial Discrimination. So basically, CERD is a body, 18 people, where they are independent experts elected by all state parties to be the ones observing the country's practices on racial discrimination, and to ensure that they fully know the context. They have country rapporteurs, and they have independent observers, and they have created guides for civil societies as well to help them be their observers of the UN.
Okay.
So they can come together and make observations on it. And then it leads to all the mechanisms provided in Article 11, 12, and 22.
Right. Okay, thank you, Lynn. Una's final statement?
Well, obviously, if the government doesn't want to depart, at least the public should urge at least the media to hear both sides of the argument,
Right.
and give a fair ground where people can compromise and engage in public, and try to break ICERD in something that where everybody can understand, and not just the intellectuals or the people who live in Klang Valley. You know, try to really accept this idea and make them understand from the educational level and to all stratas of society, to be honest. Yeah.
Aiman?
Okay, moving forward, not only on ICERD, because the government is also trying to rectify others, the remaining human rights instrument. If there is a concern by the people on their rights, I think the government should do referendum to ask the opinion of the public whether they agree or not the government to ratify any international convention that has the potential to be viewed as a threat or a clashing point towards any rights contained in our constitution.
Or at least increase public participation in the matter.
All right. Okay. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate the statements. All I would like to say is that I think both sides have pretty good points. I don't necessarily think that one side is ignorant or the other is. I think that there's just a fundamental difference of worldview, of the way they look at the world, and of what exactly rights mean to these peoples, and how exactly they would like to implement it in our country. Because we can all agree that that people don't like racists, and people want our rights. But that's the thing, right? Like, who gets to define what rights are? So I just like to thank everybody here, and you guys especially, and the guys on the little phone over there. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. Bye bye. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.